Bum, 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 bum. Yay! Hello, everybody. My name is Rod Gunn. I'm a teacher, an artist, a designer, a mentor, a cartoonist, illustrator, whatever you want to call me. And today I am going to teach you guys how to do some cool things. So every single day we go over a brand new topic. We have movie nights sometimes, which I do mostly on my own or with friends over the phone. I will include some of you guys into those next time. We draw everything from animals, cartooning, monsters, perspective, anatomy, girls, muscles, life lessons, and overall, we just teach absolutely everything. We just did a really cool one recently that was how to use your basic shapes and how to progress with each one of these basic shapes in order to be able to see this in a way that helps you with your anatomy. This video is on YouTube. Please go watch it. It's going to be really, really helpful, especially if you are a beginner artist. I essentially walk you guys through every step into creating something from a single little shape, exercises to get better, and how to turn those into 3D shapes and how those are used in your actual anatomy. Every single shape has its purpose and it has its exercises as well. Go watch it. It's an actually really good video and I actually pride myself in some of these. So that one was a really good one and we learned that yesterday. Actually, no, it was 2 days ago, I think. Then yesterday was body proportions and character design. So we talked a little bit about the differences that need to be associated with, body shapes. In this case, it was a lot to do with rib cages. It was a lot to do with, let me move this up because it's annoying me. There you go. It was showing you guys how the rib cage connects to the actual neck, how the hip bones connect to the actual rib cage, and how that applies to everything from a human can be applied just as easily to something like an animal or something that's not necessarily human. You can apply that human structure to it. And today, what I wanted to do, because it seems like this is something that bothers a lot of people, is I'm going to help you guys with body to head proportions. So I'm going to help you guys understand what happens when you make something bigger or you make something smaller. And I think that this lesson is going to be very important because so many people have a very big problem understanding what happens when you draw a character with different size heads or different size bodies. Let's say you have a character and you have your rib cage, right? So you have your rib cage and you're ready to give him a head. Well, first of all, most people don't even understand how wide to draw the neck. The neck, by the way, we're going to start our lesson in a couple minutes. So what I need from you guys, we have about 250 people on the stream. What I need from you guys is to share the stream. That is your ticket to stay on the lesson. If you guys want to help me. If you guys want help from me, you guys got to help me. This is a transactional thing. I don't do this out of the kindness of my heart. I want to be a teacher. So in order to be able to be a better teacher, I need to reach more people. So with your guys' help, I can reach a lot more people. So every time you guys share the stream, it reaches about, I think it's like 3 more people in the stream. Every time you guys like my stream, it reaches 1 more person. I believe that's how the algorithm works. So if you guys like it, every time you like it, it gets shown to at least 1 or 2 more people. And if those people like it, then it gets shown to more people. And that is how videos go viral. So help me share the stream. Show me some love. And I'll show you guys some love too. Okay? Being a better teacher has nothing to do with the amount of people. Yes, it does. Actually, it does. Because the more people that implement the stuff that I do, and the way that I teach, if it's an efficient way of teaching, then it is improving by having more people there. It's fixing other people's teaching mistakes. So yes, I do believe that having more people fixes the issue. And I'm not charging people, so therefore it's not like it's a financial thing for me. I'm not trying to ask you guys to pay to get in here. So yeah, I think I do believe that I do make an impact. So now let's move. Okay, let's see. This is what we talked about last time. We were talking about how you connect like the head and the shoulders, right? But how do you determine how big to make these things? Well, it's all gonna be based on style. Everything that you draw, there's no like ideal proportions. That is something that I like to teach people. Like, you can have your head be big with your body size be small, and it's going to look fine as long as it's proportioned. If you have a big body and a little head, that's also fine. And the head can be low, it could be high, right? But it's the same size head. So it gives you different looks when you move it around. So this is an exercise that I like to teach people, and it's just called the sushi ball. The swoosh and ball method. And it's such a simple thing to do that is going to just like really change the way that you view character design in general. When you start having the swoosh and ball method for proportions. So you're going to draw your bodies in the shape of a swoosh. What is a swoosh? Well, a swoosh is just literally like a half moon or like a frisbee, or you can think about it like a sonic boom from like Street Fighter. You know, think about it. It's a shape that's literally just free flowing. So as long as you draw two elements sticking out, they can be different lengths. You're going to end up with a decent shape for an actual lower body. And even the torso if you make the swoosh a little bit lower. So you're going to have everything you need in order to draw a pose from a swoosh. So our bodies are going to be swooshes. You're going to change the swoosh to be different shapes, different angles, different proportions, and that is how you're going to get used to drawing bodies in different ways. You can change the swoosh to be more detailed, less detailed, but in the end of things, it's actually a really easy way to be able to map out a body system. It allows you a lot of freedom because it doesn't really take away like much knowledge to just draw a swoosh in different ways and then slowly start associating those parts with where your body connects. So posing becomes really simple when you think about it in a simple way. If you start trying to like always go like action line and rib cage and hip bones and how do you make this curvy, and then like we have to like bring this in. Yes, it's like cool if you can actually see body poses like this. That's great. That's fantastic. But if you don't have the level of anatomy required to be able to do things like this yet, this works really nice. So instead of doing this, my swoosh would be something like this. And then I would just draw my little perspective lines. And even though it's not perfect anatomy, it's still relatively close to the other one. And then as I learn more anatomy, I can actually develop that. So as I learn how like muscles work, how things intersect, I can start adding anatomy to my swoosh. But the swoosh already provides you a really nice fluid way of actually using a human body. So the swoosh and ball, that's the swoosh part. And the ball part is really easy. When you are drawing a head, just draw a ball. Don't overcomplicate it. So we're thinking about proportions here. We're not thinking about like details and how we connect. We're thinking just literally about proportions. So draw your, if the ball is a little too complicated or like it just doesn't make sense to you, draw a box. draw the Loomis method box, whatever. Like whatever the basic shape you use for a face, do that. Don't be relegated. Oh, well, I don't understand this. Well, no, if you draw your heads like this all the time and you know that your head shape is going to be that, well, when you draw your bodies and you draw your little swooshies, at the top, whenever you draw, instead of a ball, just draw that shape. Okay? That is all you need to worry about. So draw your head shape instead of the ball if you are comfortable enough moving the ball. The reason that I do a circle or a sphere is because I can move that sphere in any direction that I want. Right? I can very easily rotate that in every direction possible. And I don't have to worry about perspective lines. I don't have to worry about much because it's an easy shape to actually follow. So the reason that I do it with a sphere is for that. If you do it with a box, it's relatively just as easy. Doing it with a box helps you see the angles from underneath. Okay, so doing it with a sphere helps you see the roundness. And luckily for you guys, our head is made out of two basic shapes. It's made out of a sphere and it's made out of a box. And that is essentially our face. So our heads are made out of these two shapes, a cube and a sphere. And you combine them and you get this sort of shape. So that is essentially why it's so important to look at your head shape as a simple shape so that you can move that, right? Like it's not necessarily, like the level of detail that you add to your drawing, like can come later. Like once you understand that it's placed in the right place, you can add detail later. But if it's not placed in the right place and you add detail, then it's like, you're just adding pretty paint to something that's not established and looks right. So we are going to talk a little bit about like how different head sizes affect our different body sizes. And that is the reason for this. So the ball section, this is the swoosh, swoosh. And this is the ball section. So you guys understand a little bit of what we're drawing. So we're not just drawing that, we're drawing a ball because we can rotate the ball and we can move it around. So now that we understand both sides of these, what happens when we start combining them? So we can draw a swoosh and we draw a ball. And we have a basic little peon. Like this is the most basic structure you can possibly make for a human, right? This is almost borderline a little bit just more than a stick figure. So what can we take from these little guys? Like, how can we make this into an actually like developed sketch? How do we just take this little random like little doodles that have different head sizes, different feet sizes, different proportions, stuff like that? How do we make these into actual characters? Well, this is going to involve just knowing essentially how to draw a cylinder. And by knowing how to do that, it's easy. You draw a circle, draw another circle, and then you connect the edges, right? So that is the easiest way to draw a cylinder. Draw a circle, draw another circle, and you connect the edges. If you want to give it depth, you just got to repeat that same circle inside throughout the whole thing. And you end up with perspective. You end up with depth. You end up with shape. You end up with form. In this case, you can see the front and the back of your shape. So you're going to do the same thing that we do here. You're going to give it a top, and you're going to just draw a circle that matches that shape going all the way down. And that is our basic way to give perspective. This is just considering one angle. They're not considering like it increasing and like going down in size. This is just basic initial perspective, right? By doing this, you're giving yourself a lot of guidelines that you can use. In this case, we can use these guidelines to, I don't know, give this character clothing. We can give this guy a t-shirt. We already know where the shape is. So I know like things like hoodies and stuff like that would wrap around. In this case, if we map out the arms on the side of the body in the way of little circles, then we have an area for us to draw cylinders from those circles. And this is how you use your basic perspective. So that is how you use your basic perspective on a basic shape to create basic bodies. You use your practice of basic shapes to construct things going in and out of perspective to make your elements look fluid. Now, the trick to this is, and I'm making it look really easy, but it's understanding where these elements fit and where they come out from. If you understand where your arms protrude from your body, you can draw anything coming out of your rib cage, and as long as you understand where it's coming from, it's going to look right. So placement of anatomy, like you don't need to learn anatomy to an extent. So anatomy-wise, anatomy tip. Okay? You don't have to know every single muscle. You don't. You really don't. Like you don't need to be able to learn how every single muscle fiber works in your body. You absolutely don't. What you do need to know is where those body parts rotate from, where they originate from, and what body parts connect to them. That is very important. And not understanding that limits you in the ability to be able to draw things in different perspectives. So when it comes down to the arms, for example, our arms are connected at the top of our collarbone, at the top of our rib cage, and they rotate based on having your top of your collarbone as a pivot point. So what do I mean by that? It means that if your arm is going this way, your arm is like that. And it connects back to this point. If your arm is looking up, it still connects back to that point. The collarbone might move up a little bit because it moves, but it doesn't shift much from that initial position, regardless of where you move your arm. So knowing that it connects back here helps you with your foreshortening, helps you with your like drawing through your shapes. Your placement becomes a lot easier once you understand that. And once you understand that your rib cage is easy to break down because it's a very simple basic shape, and once you find those two little holes, you can draw anything you want coming out of there. Anything. It's going to look more hand-like than not. Because it's coming out of the place where hands are supposed to come. So therefore you are like essentially giving a visual cue that it's a hand. 3 years of anatomy class perfectly condensed into a live. Woohoo! Yep, pretty much. So I'm going to take a sip of coffee while you guys keep up and catch up. So I want to see if you guys feel like sharing your work with me, and I want to see how you guys implement this. So if you guys want to tag me on Instagram, it's Rodgun the Artist. If you guys want to tag me here, that should be easy. You guys can just like duet me or whatever. And if you guys want to catch every single one of these on replay, you guys can go to my YouTube where I have like 300 plus videos. Easy. Like at this point, there's so many. And then just go subscribe. Yeah, but there's so much free info, like free knowledge. So if you guys want to show me what you guys did today and you guys want to show me what you guys draw alongside with me, please tag me. I love seeing you guys' work. If you guys want to see more videos, you guys can go to my YouTube. And if you guys want to support this fellow artist, you guys can buy my books. My books are in my links in my bio. There's a couple cool books there for you, and there's a new one gonna drop soon called Pinups. And it's gonna be a lot of sexy ladies. This one's gonna be the cover. And yeah, so it's going to involve a lot of really cool, sexy doodles of women. I think it's going to be over 100 pages at this time. Like the ebook that I have was like a little preview of it. But yeah, like it's getting done and it's awesome. All right, so let's move on to how to implement that all these things together. Okay, so if you want to practice and you really want to practice what you are drawing, when you start doing these little swooshes and draw a ball, take notes. Okay, I want you to take notes of how they intersect. Notes are key. Okay, take note of how that intersects. And then next to it, draw your perspective lines. Draw your little feet in whichever way you want them. And then next to it, replicate that. And then try to draw a character with that swoosh. Okay? Taking these elements into consideration, you see these lines. So try to draw a character with that and see how that character looks with everything split in half. Like that is a very important factor. The very first time that you go and subdivide something, don't try to do like rules of thirds. Don't try to do that shit. No, always split it in half because half is easy to divide. Okay. Half is easy to divide. So this is about half the length of my little guy. Cool. This would be about halfway the length of my legs. So therefore I know that that would be like how my legs progress down. My feet maybe shift a little bit just to match that perspective. Half of my face, that half measure can be anything you want. In my case, I like making that the top of the nose and essentially like splitting my mask in half, giving me my eyeline. Okay, that is how I see it, and that's how I always draw them. And then after drawing that, I have my rules of thirds. So the moment that I start doing that, I'm like, okay, cool. So now I have my head and I have a body. So now I need to implement the connecting points of how the neck or the head connects to the body. Before I draw any sort of anatomy here, I'm going to determine which way my body is going to look, and I'm going to shift it from this direction that I have this bottom part. I'm going to shift it to the side. Then I'm going to draw my little rib cage by drawing the bottom part. Then I travel up the middle part, draw a dot. That is going to be the middle of your collarbone. You're going to connect the ears to that. Then you're going to draw how wide you want your body to be. This is going to be where the neck muscles end and your shoulders begin. So wherever you draw this to, that is going to be where your shoulder begins. Okay, in this case, it's a very wide shoulder, so this person probably has a really wide neck. Then from here, that would be filled in with muscles or just expanding the rib cage to wherever we decided to end it. And then that's from where the shoulders would be where the arms come out. Okay. Then let me explain how you connect the head and the shoulders. You need the ears. The ears are the absolute key factor when it comes down to connecting your rib cage and your body. Key factors are going to be your ears, the bottom of your ears to be exact, your collarbone, which can be easily found by drawing a sphere, drawing a circle inside a circle, drawing a little curve at the front to give an indication of the front part of your rib cage, and traveling up the middle line that you drew with that circle to a dot. That dot is going to expand in the form of a baseball diamond across the rest of your sphere. That end collarbone is normally going to end up about halfway down your shape, giving you this little weird, little like scarab looking thing. Okay. Or another fun way to think about it is Spider-Man holding some groceries while trying to stop a train from that Spider-Man 2 movie. You can think about it like that, and it gives you your neck muscles. So that is another fun way you can think about it. Like any way that you really think about it and it makes sense is going to be a very fun, cool way to do it. Like I like doing the Spider-Man one because it gives me my armholes and it just makes me laugh. Then from the bottom of the ears, the face can be anything you want, by the way. The bottom of the ears connects to the middle of the collarbone. Boom. That is the front of your neck, and it happens from both sides. Obviously, your jaw is on top, so whenever you're drawing these, remember that your jaw, let's say your collarbone is right here and your jaw is really wide. Your jaw is going to be on top of your neck because your neck kind of wraps around your jaw. Okay, so you have this situation going on with your jaw and your neck in which your jaw creates a shadow because it's on top of this shape. So whenever you're drawing it, you're going to draw underneath your jaw and connect it to your collarbone. Okay, so you draw through your jaw. Then from here, like the rest of the space here needs to have three things. Whenever you have the top of your rib cage, okay, your collarbone, you're going to have three things. You're going to have 1, 2, 3 things. You're going to have a circle that is going to be the width of your neck. And then you're going to have 2 side neck muscles, like muscles on the side of your neck and back that connect to your collarbone. So you're going to have 1, 2, 3 elements at the top part of your head, at the top part of your rib cage. So once you have that spacing, you have 1, and in this space, I have to have 3 elements. I have to have my neck cylinder, and I have to have my back muscles that connect to my collarbone. Cool. So now that we understand how that connects, we can move on to how to draw the little simple ones. So when we have our swoosh and we have our ball, we're going to draw an indication for our ears, a quick indication for our collarbone, and we are just going to indicate 3 parts to this. 1 for the neck, 2 for the side muscles. And that's how we are going to see things for our necks. You're lost. Okay, so what we're talking about right now, we're talking about drawing simple bodies. Simple bodies, so people get used to like proportions. So we are drawing little sushis, and we're drawing a ball to go along with that sushi. But I'm trying to teach you guys how you connect your neck muscles to your collarbone, so you understand that body part a little bit easier, so that whenever you're posing these and creating elements from these, you guys can connect them a little bit better. You guys can actually understand that part instead of being afraid of drawing it because it's complicated, right? When you start understanding how things connect, collarbone, side of the body, ear, collarbone, cool. It becomes a little bit easier once you understand. Okay. Once you understand things, it becomes so much simpler. But if you don't understand how to connect them, you're going to stylize things. And when you start stylizing instead of using your knowledge, that is when things start getting complicated. Because at that point, you're trying to invent something that doesn't exist. And without an understanding of it, it's really hard to stylize anything. When you're trying to stylize something, it becomes so much easier to stylize it when you actually have an understanding of what you're drawing. What should we draw? Something really cool here. Let's give her some like headband or something. So yeah, style and stuff like that comes after. Like, learn how to build your characters, learn the proper anatomy that goes behind it, and then when it comes down to actual like proportions, you'll find that changing the proportions doesn't really change the way that you develop the characters. It's just changes the way that the body part fits within that body. It could be like a monster, or it could be a kid, or it could be a superhero. Like, changing just the head size changes everything. Right? So you could have a character that looks like a monster or something. Frankenstein. That has this sort of body shape. Or you could have somebody that has that exact body shape, but has their head bigger, is going to give you an entirely different look on the character. Okay, so look at the gigantic difference that makes. It changes the design entirely. So you have to be aware of this whenever you're designing your stuff. I made a little chart right here to try to explain this. So having a very small head and then slowly moving that head up, or moving the head up and then just making it bigger, creates very different styles. So you have to come up with your own way of measuring it. So if you're going to be drawing big heads on characters, draw your little sushis and measure them out. Be like, okay, cool. Maybe this one will be like 1-to-1 ratio. Like, my bodies will be about one head to my actual characters. And whenever you're drawing them, you're going to be like, yeah, divide it in half. Use halves. Halves are your friend. Like, especially when you're trying to come up with a style. Your halves of anything is your friend. Okay? It's easy to divide. It's easy to figure out. It's easy to like maneuver around. Just so think of halves. Or if we want something different, we could make it 3 heads tall. So, and that changes the design a little bit. Right? If we make it 4 heads tall, then it starts actually changing it drastically. And that is essentially what happens whenever you are drawing your characters. The proportions that you choose are going to be reflective of what type of styling you want to give your character. It's not like a rule that you have to stick to the same like boring proportions that happen with every single comic book or every single life drawing. Like, oh my God, like reality is so horrible. Why do we try to replicate it so much? Like, that's just the way I see it. Like, why are we constantly always aiming to like recreate reality when we have these amazing worlds in our brain that just allow us to come up with anything we want, right? But we're aiming to like replicate reality. Like, ugh. Ugh. So I don't like sticking to a certain sort of like proportions. I just like doing all sorts of proportions. And I like to play around with body shapes. So whenever I'm drawing my characters, I tend to start off by drawing a bunch of sushis and seeing what type of character I want to create. Okay. Even if it's the same sushi, just moving it around just to see how things look like when they overlap. It's just a matter of visualizing things before you start drawing them. If it's hard for you to draw this, this is almost like the most basic way that you can approach it, right? Like there is literally very little more basic ways that you guys can see this. This does not take into consideration much perspective, and it just takes into consideration being able to draw this, a circle, and maybe 2 little feet. Draw the feet in different directions. Don't draw them all like that. Draw them in like, learn how to draw in different ways. Like try to figure out a way to twist the sushi. Like give them like bendy parts and stuff. Like once you start getting used to the actual like shapes of them, like see what you can do about creating better, more dynamic posing by just changing the shape a little bit. Like little by little, this can be sculpted into an actual body structure. If you learn enough anatomy and you learn enough perspective, you will be able to turn these little sushis into incredibly cool poses. Because even though they're really simple, they still have a bunch of iconic parts that like map out body parts. Like the little edge right here gives you a perfect hip bone. This part right here tends to give you your rib cage. That's a weird rib cage, but it still gives you a rib cage. And it just provides you a lot of really cool like elements that are very simple to play along with. Like even if you're looking at it from the front, from the back, it just provides you a lot of really cool dynamic energy to your sketches. So it's really, really, really important that you understand how to move an object. And if this is the way that it works for you, and this is the way that it actually functions for you, and makes you like be able to understand that you don't really need to know all the anatomy, you just need to know the placement of your things. Like little sushis like this will become like your best friend. Because you'll eventually be able to turn these into cool poses with enough knowledge of anatomy and stuff. I got here late. Are we able to watch this in full? Yes, you will absolutely be able to watch it all in full later on YouTube. Go subscribe to my channel. The name is the same, Ragan the artist. I'm going to take a little break. I'm going to take a couple seconds to break. I'm going to zoom out so you guys can see the whole page. And we will continue on to this bottom part, and we will talk a little bit more about how like the legs work and then how to implement that into your simple sushi. So meanwhile, I want you guys to if you guys are drawing along, I want you guys to do 10 sushis with a ball. 10 sushis. Okay? 10 different ones, different sizes, different heads, and different feet. So the feet, draw them in different directions. See what happens when you draw them in different directions. You might be surprised that you like find that it's so much easier to draw like a different angle by just not drawing your feet like this. right? Just draw them in different directions, see what happens. You guys will love it. I'm going to take a sip of coffee. I'm going to be right back. I'm going to run to the bathroom real quick. I'm going to not actually like pause this because it seems like I don't like restarting this. So I'll be back in like less than a minute. I'll leave you guys with our auction piece for today. This is going to be on auction today on Instagram. So the auction started $20. And they go from there for 24 hours. The last one sold, this guy sold for $29. So it went relatively cheap and it's going to Canada. So there you go. But little red panda guy will be up for sale today. So keep an eye out for that one. I'll be right back. All right, we are back. How is everybody's sushis going? Did everybody finish their sushis? Music studios. For real, my teachers never taught me like this. Because, you know why I teach like this? Milky, why does Rod teach like this? Well, Rod teaches like this because he struggled a lot learning the way that other people taught. I did not see shit like he did. Like, I didn't even draw a sphere for sakes. Like, Rod, you were not meant to be an artist, but you kind of forced your way into it. So, oh yeah, that's not Milky's voice, by the way. Milky's voice is like, hi. Yeah, but no, like I forced my way through through understanding everything. You know, like everything was always a struggle, but I just loved doing it. So it was you know, like I just taught my way through things by myself. And, you know, this is the way that I learned. At first, my journey went in through like repetition, right? Like I would go and I would copy other people's work and I would just like try like my hardest to get like the little swooshies right and the little curves right and the little almond right. And then this one, like I didn't see like another shape. I would see like a C and then I would see like a thin line and then another C. I would not see shapes. So, but I got really good at it. I got really, really, really good at it. So for like 10 years, 15 years of my life, of my career, I was really, really well known for being able to like do artwork like that, right? It was like, oh, it kind of looks like this person's work. I'm like, yeah, cool, awesome. Oh, yeah, it kind of looks like this person's work. Oh, cool, awesome. And then it got to the point where people started asking me to come up with stuff for them. And I was like, holy shit. I was like, I was like, what do I do? Right? I was like, oh my God, like I've always used other people as inspiration. Someone has finally asked me to do something for myself. What do I do? That's when I realized that I was not developing a style. And I went onto the search, like I was a very deep search to find out what your style is, right? And this has to deal with the body proportions, head to body proportions as well, because that is all about style. Like I said, having a person that has two identical heads, right? But one of them has a little body and one of them has a big body. It's going to change the design completely. So it's going to play a big role, and even a slight difference, right? Even a slight difference in size makes a huge difference. So you have to be very accurate when it comes down to the way that you proportion things if you want to stay consistent, especially when things don't necessarily stay back to back. When things start overlapping, when things start looking like in different perspectives and foreshortening and things like that, it gets a little harder to maintain those shapes, right? It's much harder to keep track of your body parts if you don't have a proper mapping system to be able to keep that consistency in place. And that's what these little like marks are. These little marks tell me where the body is pointing. So the reason that I keep it super simple, like a sphere, is because a simple circle inside of my sphere, splitting it, gives me the front, gives me the top, and with these going to the sides, it gives me the sides. So it's very easy to take that simple concept, and then whenever I need to rotate it, let's say I want my collarbone there, I can start rotating that by just literally drawing a circle inside a circle. And now I have a cool neck that I can use for a cool pose. Okay. With a cool angle, with cool anatomy. And it didn't take any more effort than it did to draw this. And this didn't take much more effort than drawing a sphere, which is not much more different than just drawing a circle with a circle inside. Right? If you know how to draw a circle, you draw a circle inside your circle, and then you just split your shape into a baseball diamond and into a little hole in the bottom. That's simple. We go baseball diamond, hole in the middle. And then we have a neck, we have collarbone, we have placement for our muscles, we have placement for our boobs, everything. Like it's just, it makes it so much easier. What should you start with, the torso or the head? Depends on what type of drawing you're making. So if you're going to be drawing like let's say you're only focused on drawing a portrait. So your portrait is going to be mostly head. Well, I recommend you start with the head and then you work your way down onto your torso. Okay. So in this case, the torso would be second. If you are drawing more of a complete piece, let's finish this guy. I don't like leaving incomplete sketches. Mask, nose bridge into my eyebrow doing something different because I don't like symmetry. Then we have our eyes that fall underneath our eyebrows. So once I know my eyebrow, that's another cool trick. Once you know your eyebrow, you know that your eye can't go beyond that. It normally falls within that. So your eye is going to be anywhere within that space. Anywhere within that space that you draw your eye, it's going to look right. Okay, so your eyebrow is the first key element into understanding how to place your eyes. Because you know that your eyebrow is normally bigger than your eye. So, because guess what? This is all based on anatomy. If you have your eye socket for your eye, right? You have your eyeball inside of there. This is a skull, by the way. You're going to have your eyebrow sits right here on your brow muscle. It kind of goes around the ridge of your eyebrow, your eye socket. Okay. And then you have your eye. Normally, it's really close to it, but the only difference is we have eyelids that create the distance. So the eyelid is what separates this from the rest. You normally don't see that much of the bottom eyeball either. You only see like a little sliver of your eyeball. So here's I'm gonna break your guys' brain. How about that? Like let me explain eyes and styles for eyes in like 2 seconds. Like this is going to just like be like, what? Do you guys want to draw really cool anime eyes? Whenever you're drawing your sphere, like the little hemispheres that you choose, because you should only be drawing about half of the ball, right? This is your entire eyeball. If you want cool anime eyes, make that really big. And you have really big open eyes. You can make that bigger, make the eyelashes really, really thick, and then just stylize the living hell out of it, right? Cool. That is one way, and that was just by opening up 2 points really wide. Now, what happens if we don't just close it, but what if we move this cut further up? Well, if that happens, instead of cutting it from the middle, you cut it from here, you end up seeing a lot less of the eye. And it provides a different style, right? It provides a completely different style with that same approach. So if you want to have like a comic book, like more realistic type of drawing, you need to shift your eyes on your eyeball to be more eyelid than eyeball. If you guys want more stylized type of stuff, like, anime eyes and stuff like that, make the ball, cut it from a deeper angle. So for like super cartoony stuff, like let's say like Looney Tunes and sort of stuff, you could literally just choose half the ball. If you wanted something more kind of like, I don't know, realistic or whatever, you just use the little tiny opening right at the front and you end up with a much more realistic eye. So changing the shape of this, of the way that you push the shape, it's fascinating to me. Like, let's try a couple more. So let's say we have just a normal eye. Okay. And this is just a circle with a circle inside of a circle with another circle on top of that slice that happened from that circle that you did inside of that circle. And then you draw another little circle inside of that circle that you drew inside of that circle inside of that other circle that you drew with a circle inside of that circle. So that is how you just draw eyes. You just learn how to draw circles and you have eyes. Once you start drawing your eyes, take your eyeball into consideration. In this case, look at how I'm doing it in a simple way. And then figure out hemispheres according to how big you want your eye to be. If you want your eye to be the size of with a circle, go from edge to edge. You go around it like if it's a sphere. Right? You go around it. And if you have trouble doing that, do this. If you have trouble figuring that out, just draw circles inside of circles so that you actually get that. Just angle them. And you end up with situations where you have like intersections, and then you can use those intersections to figure that out. Right? So get used to doing those exercises so you get that roundness to it. But what if you didn't want to show that much big of an eye? Well, you can just move those in to that exact same styling of eye, and now you have a very different eye. As opposed to a really big eye that had the entirety of the circumference as a detail. So that is another style difference. And then you have all this is your eyelid, because that is just your eyeball. The master class is we are learning with smiles here. So how do you apply this to an actual drawing? Well, here we have a simple drawing. I'm going to take a hemisphere from the middle. Like when you're looking at a face, think about it like this. When you're drawing a face in general, you're not seeing the entirety of the eyeball here, right? Like there's no way that you see the entirety of the eyeball because you're not looking halfway through a person's skull. When you're looking at an eye in general from the viewpoint of anyone, you're only seeing about half of your eye, like half your eyeball at most, because most of the time it's a lot less than that. But consider that if you just split your sphere in half, that is going to be a relatively consistent way of drawing your eyeballs. Take the sphere, split it in half, take 2 points, go around in the circle until I find that line that I need. Okay, cool. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Cool. I stylize them any way I want. I normally just make the upper line a little bit darker, and you end up with eyes. Normally, in this case scenario, you would have a nose or something like that that would be blocking a little bit of the nose right here, so therefore you would not see that side of the eye. And then you go into your eyelids, and then like we talked before, our eyebrows are really close to the top of our eyeball. So, ta-da! And that's a very simplified way of seeing it. So I wouldn't just choose halfway, draw hemisphere number 2, and I have an eye. Ball, hemisphere number 1, a little darker, hemisphere number 2, ball. It's done. So now, just like that, I have like really cool round eyes that didn't take much effort. Point 1, point 2, hemisphere, darker hemisphere, cool. Point 1, point 2, hemisphere, bottom hemisphere, darken the top one, have my eyelid already, and I have my placement for my eyebrow because my eye also gives me, if I start with the eyes, well, my eyebrow has to be bigger than my eye. So you're going to have this sort of shape on top of your eye, because you're going to have your eyebrow be within that space. Regardless of what type of eyebrow you draw, it doesn't matter what type of eyebrow you draw. It's always going to be bigger than your eye. So once you know your eye, I know that my eyebrow is going to be a little bit bigger than that. You can think about it like this as well. You can think about your eyeball being like inside of a cup. Okay, especially for this side, for the side that's being blocked with the nose. Think about it as a ball inside of a cup. You're only going to be able to see a little bit of that ball from inside that cup. So whenever the nose bridge is blocking your eye, think about your eye socket over here like a cup with a ball inside of that cup. Because that is how you have to see it if you want to be able to learn how to draw these same shapes, but from a different angle. So learning how to see through your shapes, draw a circle. Drawing a circle is such an important concept. And just perfecting the ability to draw circles can help you visualize things like mouths. Because mouths are very similar to eyes. Mouths are 2 points connected with each other and then you add detail inside. And that's it. That is what a mouth is. You choose a sphere, 2 points within that sphere, connect them with hemispheres, and then draw whatever details you want inside for mouths. Sphere, 2 dots, anywhere around that shape, connect them in any way you want, have them overlap, have them be short, have them go over, and then just add negative space. And you have awesome mouths every time. Base it off your basic foundations, and it's going to be easy. If you base it off style, it's going to be hard. If you try to copy people's styles, it's going to be hard because you don't know how they broke down their styles. You don't know how they went about drawing those lips. You don't know how their body, like how their technique works. It doesn't matter how other people draw it. Use that as an inspiration to learn how to simplify it like that. But understand the body shape and how it works so that you don't have to worry about copying someone else. You can apply your own imagination. And I'm going to show you guys how to draw mouths real fast, just because it's so easy. It's like, it was so easy to learn how to draw mouths when I actually sat down and studied them that it made me realize that every goddamn lesson that I've learned from everyone else about drawing them is just so overly over-explained, overly analyzed, and it's just does not make any goddamn sense. When you can learn it super simple. You guys want to know how? Cool. Really easy. Really, really easy. Take 2 dots. Connect those dots with any lines, and I mean any lines, by the way, any lines. Just connect the top and the bottom. It's going to look like this. It's going to look like this. It's going to look like that, whatever. 2 lines. You're going to darken the top line and overlap it a little bit. Just darken the top line from those 2 points and overlap it a little bit. And then draw your eye. Whatever sort of style you choose to go with, you can draw it at that point. That is how easy it is to draw eyes. Now, Rod, but that only works when you're drawing flat. No, it's that easy drawing them in any perspective. If you want to draw them in 3/4, just choose the curve. At this point, the curve is at the top, right? The middle, right? Most of the time, just change that curvature from the middle to a side. And now you have 3/4 eyes. That's it. That's all you really need to know. Change that little thing. Change it a little bit. Just change the curvature of your line. So you have a character. Let's say you have a character. I'm all excited now. Okay. So let's say you have your character looking like this, right? So you have your eyeball, and you can draw your eyeball, or you can draw your mask. So you have your mask. Cool. So drawing the mask gives you the side of the face, gives you your temple. The temple indicates the side of your eyebrow. So that is literally the first mapping point that you can have. From here, you know that your eyebrow is not going to go all the way through like a unibrow, so you're going to have a little bit of space between them. And the other one's just going to go around my shape like that. Cool. This space normally indicates where my nose bridge is going to start. And my nose bridge tends to do this hourglass shape with the top of my nose mask right here. So it goes down to my mask. That already provides us our eye sockets. Cool. That's really cool. From a cheekbone right here down to wherever my chin is going to go, boom, I'm going to draw a line. That gives me the side of my face. Cool. We're almost at the eyes, guys. We're almost at the eyes. From here, understanding where my eyes go is very important. I need to know that my eyeball is going to be really close to my eyebrows, Unless I decide not to. I can draw cartoons where my eyebrows are floating, right? And that doesn't, it should not affect where my eyebrows are supposed to go. So my eyebrows supposed to go here because that's where the shadows and stuff like that will happen due to the bone structure, not due to where the eyebrows are. So even if you draw it floating, your skull doesn't change. So you still have that skeletal part right there, like your temples and your eye sockets that create the shadows, as opposed to your eyebrow floating. But if you're going to use your eyebrows as guide marks, which I recommend you should, remember that your eye is going to be just a little bit smaller than your eyebrow muscle, so you can just figure that out by simply bringing that in and then drawing the top of your shape. So if you draw them in the right place, you get rewarded by easy placement. When you draw them out of place, you get punished with having to figure out how to make it look right. So then we have our nose bridge, boom, 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 and it goes into our nose. Our nose is going to come out of this little pocket that we drew, and it can be any shape. Again, it can be absolutely any shape we want, but there's restrictions. This little nose pocket that we draw is going to represent this little tiny hole in our nose, in our skull. So it's going to represent where the cartilage comes out from. So I like to give like the balloon explanation. And imagine that you had your skull and you have your nose canal right there. Okay. Now imagine that your skull is open in the back end, and the only thing that allows anything out is your nose canal. Right? So that little tiny diamond that we draw at the edge of our mask is going to be the representation of this. We're going to start with a balloon. And we're going to start filling that balloon up. So as we fill the balloon up, this is bone. This is not going to move. This is bone too. That's not going to move. So as you start putting more air into this, you're going to start seeing a little bit of that balloon pop up. That little bit of that balloon has to connect at the top and at the bottom of that shape, regardless of how much it protrudes. It can be a little bit, or it could be a lot. Okay? You can have a gigantic honker of a nose, and that could move in any direction, any angle, any shape. So, but it always has to connect back here because that's where the balloon is coming from, right? That same thing happens with cartilage. The cartilage is growing from there. So it can't be lower on your anatomy because then it obstructs with your mouth. You need to understand that everything has a place for a reason. Whenever things start looking weird or they look off is because we're guessing where things go. And the moment that you stop guessing where things go, that is essentially the time that that's when it clicks, right? The moment that you stop trying to stylize it and you learn it, it becomes instinctual. Yes, the noses will not normally be that big, but that is normally what happens. And when you learn how to maneuver around your actual anatomy, things like learning where the mouth goes, how far it goes, where the cheekbones go, all that just goes out the window because you don't really need it because you're not guessing anymore. So we have this little nose canal, and now we are going to draw a little diamond. Okay, the diamond shape for a nose is perfect because it gives you an underside. It gives you the nose bridge and not like a nice, just a line. This is not a nose bridge, right? Just drawing this is not a nose bridge. Understanding that this is a shape makes it a nose bridge. You can make that shape like that as long as you understand that it's an actual shape and not just a little swoosh. The moment that you stop thinking about things as little lines and curves and like angles and little swooshies, and you know what I mean too, by the way, like you perfectly know what I mean. Like I know you know what I mean. So don't play with me. You guys know what I mean. If you're drawing things based on style, you are the only ones that can actually recognize that, right? Everybody else will think that you are an absolute gifted, like, goddess or god, like by just knowing how to draw something as simple as a nose, right? But it's going to be up to you to be like, okay, do I really know how to draw this? Like, if I had to draw this and reconstruct it, how do I do that? Can I do that from different angles? Do I know enough perspective to be able to see that from a different side? Do I know enough about how this is constructed to be able to deconstruct it and maybe add some little details inside, right? You know the reason that when you get to your drawings and then you get to like a point where you're like rendering and you're rendering and you're rendering and you're adding detail and detail and detail, and it just like, oh man, you don't know when it's done? You know that feeling, right? What if I told you that there is no like line to tell you where it should be done at all? Like you could keep going and going and going until the point where it becomes hyperrealism. Like you could keep going and detail the living crap out of everything you do. And we normally just stop because we are limited into what we can actually observe. So let me give you guys a really cool like idea of what's to come for you guys as you progress through your art skills. And I'm gonna show you guys the little graph that I like to make, mostly because this helped me understand like why I wasn't able to draw like other people, why I wasn't able to keep like up with other people that had like cool styles, and what I did to compensate for that ruined my career in the way that it limited it. It didn't ruin it as in the like, oh my God, I like lost my career, but it made me derail from actually learning because I wanted to compete, and why you should not be competing with other people. All right. So much stuff, such like little space to draw it in. Okay, so what if I told you that your brain and your eyes unlock different stages of observation once you understand one level of it? So it's very easy to explain when it comes down to drawing eyes. At first, when we are drawing eyes, we normally start drawing our eyes by drawing sticks. What we are doing when we draw things like this, we are essentially just identifying two objects in a placement that are next to each other, right? Our brain is only capable of adapting to that level of understanding of an eye. It's just two objects spaced out next to each other. There's not three objects. There's no three eyes. We can observe two. There's two elements in there. And that is what we can recognize at an early stage, right? We can normally identify one mouth, and that's normally about the extent of what we can really do. And that's why the happy face is like such a iconic thing. We all know that a face has two eyes, one mouth. Cool. So as we progress and we learn different things, we start learning that maybe the eyes are round. So now we draw dots and we make the mouth round. And maybe we add a little round nose because now we know circles. So circles allow us to draw little round shapes all over. Right? So once we understand a little bit more about detail, we know that eyes are round, so we end up not drawing them like just lines anymore, and we end up learning the power of a circle, or circles in general, not spheres, because we don't think of depth like that at this point. Then after that, you learn how to draw maybe eyes with like a pupil. So now you go and you're like, oh yeah, well, I'm going to draw a circle and I'm going to draw a circle inside of a circle. And now I am cool like that. And now this is now like the coolest thing in the world because now you know how to draw a circle inside of a circle. And that little circle inside of a circle allows you like the ability to draw really cool eyes. And then from there, maybe you progress into learning how to use line work a little bit. So now it's not just a circle inside of a circle for your eyes, but you use that same technique, but you darken one line up. And all of a sudden, your eyes are looking a lot cooler. Right? Just from that alone, that became a much, much more dynamic looking thing. Why is that? Well, believe it or not, just doing that is replicating the concept of eyelashes. Eyelashes normally darken the top eyelid of your drawings, or of your face in general. So by drawing it darker, you take a drawing from just looking plain to looking more like an actual existing eye. So that is what happens when you darken just a single line inside of your circle. So once you learn to play a little bit with line work, you end up with really interesting results. So if you are at any of these stages, this is the stage that comes next in the understanding of like a basic part like the eye. Then from there, we learn how to stylize things a little bit. So now we are going to start adding like eyelashes and stuff like that to our shape. We're still not doing much with the forms of anatomy or anything. We're still just literally darkening a line and adding a little bit of style. And since you feel so cool with your circles, you can now draw circles inside of a circle for just that middle part. So you get to see another level of detail. And that's just adding another circle inside of a circle. So we went from one circle to two circles in line work to three circles in line work. And it's not doing anything special except just drawing a circle inside of a circle inside of a circle. So as you guys can see, the more that you understand how to put detail, this would be unfathomable for somebody that just learned how to draw this. They can't see this. They just can't. And you can't see this until you unlock that level. Imagine yourself as an RPG character, and this is level 0, this is level 10, this is level 15, this is when you evolve, like, and then you evolve and you learn how to use line work. And then from there, you progress. And then the next level of evolution happens when you learn, because from here, you can add another circle inside of your eyes. So now we go from like, I'm just going to draw the eyes at this point. So it's a circle with another circle with another circle, right? With a dark line on top. If you add another circle, now you have a highlight. So this is 3 circles. This is 4 circles. Okay. And then you evolve again right here, like bleep, 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 when you start applying anatomy. So once you understand that this is a circle, knowing how to turn a circle into a sphere, so going from a circle to a sphere, all it takes is drawing an extra circle inside of that circle. That's all it takes. And then you shift all the circles, like if you're drawing them from the front, just shift them to the side to follow that guideline. And that's all it takes to draw eyes in 3/4 now. So, and then as you add anatomy to this, once you learn how to draw something in a three-dimensional space, well, now you just have to observe how people's eyes actually work, right? You have to go out and do your studies and realize like the levels of detail that go inside of those shapes, how people do different eyelashes, different eyelids, different angles of their stylizations of their faces. All that is going to be more observational. So you need to understand and observe people in order to get to that level. So this is going to come with a lot of knowledge. Like you need to go out and study the living hell out of life. So you actually have to live it, and you have to be not afraid to like draw it and like be there and like just observe, right? Like you can take this to a very high extent. You can just draw shapes and be perfectly fine with cartooning, period. Like, but you still, even for cartooning, you need to observe life. Like if you just literally sit around doing nothing, you're never going to go out and observe like anything and do nothing with anything that you do. You're just going to be a nice, shy person with your sketchbook, doing absolutely nothing, just like, I want to show my work to no one, but I don't want to do this, but I want to be the best comic book artist ever. And it doesn't quite work like that, does it? You need to go out and you need to go walk around in nature, go for hikes, go for leisurely walks, go to hang out with friends, go do things that you are actually gonna absolutely love to do. Live your life the way that you wish that you could like live it every day. And then, you just won't have any regrets ever. So if you have those projects that you want to get done, get them done. Get them out. Just get them out the door. Like, what's holding you up? So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of inspiration going into the rest of this weekend. Okay? So tonight, I want you guys to make a little list. I want you guys to go into your reserve banks of inspiration. I want you guys to go back and make a list of a couple things. I want you guys to name 10 things. So you're going to like essentially make your own like commandments. Okay? You're going to make 10, whatever your name is, commandments. Mine is Rodgon's commandments. I am going to go and I'm going to name the 10 things that I want to learn in the next month. Or if that's too much and overwhelming, what do you want to do and learn in the next year? And then as you go along these, make them like a checkmark list. Start with 1. Master that. Go on to the next. We're doing that with anatomy right now. So for me, the last couple sketchbooks have been purely based on learning how to teach anatomy. The next couple sketchbooks are going, like, I'm so excited for the next one. Like once we finish this sketchbook, which is almost there, we are going to go into style. Like we are going to heavily go into finding style. So we are going to go and explore like how to apply these methods to different styles, like anime. We're going to like deconstruct, different people's styles to like make, like just to see how people construct them. I'm going to make like really, imagine like season 3 or 15 or Rodgon. Like that is essentially what's going to happen. Like we're going to like transition to a more in-depth level of teaching for at least 1 or 2 of the streams out of the week. And if, that is just going to be how I want to progress, because I want to teach at a higher level too. Like I want to be able to teach the people that are like desperate for that higher level learning. So I want to approach it. And if I have to start a new channel just so that it doesn't conflict with this one, perfect. I'll just start a new channel. I don't care. It's going to happen. So even if it starts small, just like everything did for me on the other one, I will do it. If it takes 7 years to make the digital one like as big as this one, I will
put the time in. I don't care. It's just some like other knowledge that I think that is very important, but a lot of people feel like they can't do it because they don't have the programs, right? They don't have a digital, they don't have an Apple like iPad, they don't have like any of that. So they feel relegated to like not be able to do some of the work along with us. And I get it. But like, I think my channel is, I've always wanted it to be for people that are getting prepared to take this on as a challenge for a lifeline. Like if you're going to be an artist for a living, I want my channel to be like a great guide for that, right? I want it to be like a fantastic, like, oh my God, I stumbled into gold type of situation when people like just randomly stumble onto it. And, you know, to be a resource for people to use down the line for years. Because it's not about just me like selling books or whatever. I don't see it like that. For me, it's more like, see, I don't have kids and, you know, I don't really have a strong connection with like many people in this world. Very few people so I want to leave something nice for everybody after I die. That is essentially my purpose in doing that. And I teach people so they don't have to struggle. And I believe that this is something that will be really nice for people to have for prosperity, because, you know, knowledge is just infallible. Like knowledge is just invaluable. And experienced people that know how to teach don't really come along very often. All right. With that being said, I think we are done with our sketch breaks today. So thank you guys so much for being my sketch buddies today. Today, let's recap what we did and give you guys a couple exercises for you guys to actually be able to go out into your world and be better artists for staying here with me for as long as you did. So today we talked a little bit about head and body proportions. We talked a little bit about what the head size compared to your body size does, and how you can actually use it to attach that to a certain style. The way that you proportion them is not necessarily ever going to be wrong. You just need to learn how everything is proportioned and find a balance in place for everything that your body has to have. That includes your arms, your chest, your collarbones, and stuff like that, right? You need to understand your body parts so that you actually know how to simplify it easy. The swoosh and ball is a really, really easy way to be able to do that. You can take any little sushi that you draw by just creating like a little sonic boom, or it could be like seem like a little balloon that has like things attached to it, whatever. Any way that you guys want to see it, this little shape right here is going to be your best friend, because this gives you perspective. Even if you draw the same one, you can draw them in multiple different angles by just changing the direction of the feet and changing the direction of the lines that you draw. From there, you can start adding perspective lines, hip lines, rib cages, and be able to mold your character accordingly. But that's a simplified way of seeing it. And then taking that concept and just applying different structures, like coming up with different shapes just to see what happens when you draw them, is going to amplify your imagination. It's going to amplify your range of shapes and posing, and it's going to just make you a much better designer, period. So we talked a little bit about that. We talked a little bit about how to see things in perspective, and all you really need to know is how to draw a cylinder in perspective. Once you learn how to draw a cylinder, you can draw these guys incredibly easy. So a cylinder is just a circle, another circle, and you connect the edges. If with these guys, you're going to take that same concept, you're going to take a circle, cut your shape, a circle, cut your shape, and then draw your little circles in between, creating a cylinder. These are cylinders as well. Any arms and stuff like that are cylinders coming out of cylinders. Or you can think about them as bean bags, or any other shape that's going to give you a more dynamic approach. So the trick is to make it look easy and simple, or not make it look, but to make it simple enough that you can just take that basic shape and modify it to your heart content. Like once you understand that basic shape, now you can start playing with different sizes for it, different head sizes for it, moving it up and down. And then eventually you'll be able to just draw every single size proportionate character. And you guys won't be restricted by, oh, is it a woman? Is it a man? Is it big? Is it small? Is it an adult? Is it a child? Like you'll just be able to do it because you'll just know how the different proportions work with different body shapes. And this is the simplest way to break it down, in my opinion. Then we talked a little bit about eyes and how to see the overlap of your shapes. I talked about the stupidly easy, simple way to draw eyes. 2 dots, curved lines, dark top, boom. Like that is the easiest way to see it. I explained it in detail. I explained to you guys how you can go from just drawing a simple shape though and actually start drawing your eyes with depth. And I talked to you guys through seeing your eye through the same concept, just moving these lines up a little bit. And then you have smaller eyes, bigger eyes. Simple enough. Bum, 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 bum. Simply move that line back and you have small eyes, big eyes. Small eyes, like this. Big cartoony eyes, like that. Anyways, that is a simple way to see it. And maybe the reason why you can't see those details yet is because we haven't gotten to that stage yet. So as you learn and you move forward, you will start seeing more detail naturally. Like your eye just zooms in another level. It's like bloop, 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 bloop. Like bloop, 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 bloop. Bloop, 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 bloop. Bloop, 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 bloop. Right? You just end up getting more out of your drawings because you end up being able to observe more. And the more knowledge you have, aka the more foundational work you put, like your foundations, aka your perspective and stuff, you're going to be able to see the different layers within your shapes a lot easier, be it the thickness of your eyebrows, of your brow line. You'll be able to eventually see a lot more detail than the average person because you already mastered drawing the other ones first. So it doesn't end there. Like you literally can go infinitely and down into like a rabbit hole of like hyperrealism, and there's really no end to it. So if you don't know how to like finish a sketch or whatever, it's not because you have run out of things to add to it. It's mostly because you have run out of knowledge to be able to apply to your drawing. And that is something that should not necessarily be concerning. Just understand that that is something that you need to address if you want to learn how to take things to the next level. And sometimes it takes somebody else that understands that little level of where you are and where they've been, aka a more experienced artist, to be able to show you how to progress past that. And hopefully I've done that to some experienced artists to be able to show you how to progress past that. And hopefully I've done that for some of you guys today. So we have come to the end of our stream today. Thank you guys so much for joining. I appreciate you guys so much. So thank you. This one's for you guys. Yay. 41,000. Hell yeah. Woo woo. This one's for you guys too. And for all of you that sat there and watched the stream without sharing or liking it, shame on you. That is not how this works. So next time, please do me a favor. If you guys plan to stay, I don't mind sharing my knowledge, but I do expect you guys to contribute to the class by just sharing and liking the streams. That is all I ask, nothing else. I don't beg you guys to subscribe to shit. I don't beg you guys for money. So if you guys can do that, that'd be amazing. I love you all. Have a wonderful day. And I'd like to leave you guys this Saturday afternoon with a wonderful little message. And I want you guys to go out into the world and I want you guys to show some kindness. I want you guys to show someone some love and I want you guys to love a little. Okay? Even if that means just being kind to yourself. I want you guys to go out into the world, and I want you guys to live a little. I want you guys to go out, take a deep breath of fresh air, and enjoy the sunlight. And get a better camera mount. I want you guys to go out into the world, out there today, and I want you guys to laugh a little. You know, life is not worth living if laughter isn't part of it. It just isn't. And I want you guys to also remember that you're an artist, and above all, you need to go out there and draw a lot. Because that's the only way you get better, and that's the only way you progress. Have a wonderful Saturday, everybody. Stay safe. I'll see you guys tomorrow for another lesson. Tune in around 11 o'clock in the morning. Actually, I don't think I'd have a lesson tomorrow. I think I have a caricature gig tomorrow. So I might live stream a caricature gig. Cool. So we might have caricatures tomorrow. So yay, we get to draw people in public. Oh yeah. So we will draw some cool people in public tomorrow. I'll set up the stream. It'll be like a 3-hour stream of just drawing random people. So that'll be really cool. Tune in tomorrow. See you guys tomorrow. Hope you guys learned something. If you didn't, I'm so sorry. Please go look at my YouTube. There's stuff for beginners as well. If you guys want to learn some more stuff, I love you all. Bye. Bye.